We are back with another candidate who will be on the ballot in August. Elaine Davis is the current representative of District 18. It's great to have you with us. That's a district that looks like an amoeba, like all the districts do, as I've been saying, and it crosses a lot of Knoxville, covers South Knoxville, and also you represent 70,000 people. You are running in the primary in August. What is it that is driving you to run again?
Well, thank you, John, for letting me be here, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to talk to everybody. One of the things that has always gotten me involved in politics has been the fact that I had an issue, our family did, and so we went to our local legislators, and we went to our school board, and we went to county commission to try to help seek resolution. And so all it did was reemphasize in my mind how important it is to make sure that we have people that are listening, that are working towards solutions and trying to remove some of the obstacles and barriers in government.
And as you're knocking on doors in the campaign, what's the top issue you're hearing from people when you say, what are you interested in?
Well, very similarly to what happened to me on my way here, it's traffic and congestion, and then also infrastructure. So it's potholes. It's very simple things. People want to have good roads, good schools, and low taxes, and then get government out of their way. So they just want to be able to provide for their families and enjoy their life, and so those are the things that we need to focus on. Fortunately, I sit on the Transportation Committee. When I was elected in 22, I sat on the full Transportation Committee, and then this past session, I sat on that Transportation Committee as well. And it's one of the most interesting committees, I believe, because I know that it impacts our daily life. It's very important, especially now, the way that our sales tax, obviously is to pay for our general fund and pay for a lot of things. The gas tax, which is a fixed amount, which is like about 26 cents, it actually helps to pay for our roads and that infrastructure. And so the maintenance of those roads and that infrastructure, those costs are going up because the expenses of all of that is increasing. The price of just paying for asphalt and all of those things are increasing. And yet we're growing, so we're feeling some of those growing pains as well. Now, fortunately, we were able to, with Hurricane Helene, we were able to have, during that special session, dedicate some dollars to help with a lot of that infrastructure. And then this past session, we added $400 million from the general budget to transportation to kind of put into each of the districts. One of the important parts is that a lot of times in our larger areas like Knoxville, Chattanooga, Nashville, Memphis, we kind of soak up a lot of those road dollars out of those regions. So with that $400 million, we gave that to TDOT to try to help with a lot of the rural areas, to help those smaller communities that don't have the strong tax base that some of our larger communities do, to help pay for the roads and repaving and resurfacing, and then bridge infrastructure.
Well, let's look
that's the primary.
It is the primary concern, and I heard that from your competitors, and I asked them about the sort of the I-40, I-75 split and the solutions that some of your colleagues are talking about with choice lanes. And redoing that area in a way that will relieve some of that congestion. Are choice lanes something that you support?
Well, it was part of the Transportation Modernization Act. We included that in that act to explore that and to look into that. That is one of the things that TDOT, when they're going around to their public meetings right now, when they're doing their Pell study, is to really allow for the community to look at that sort of option and to see, is this something that's viable for our community?
Do you think it is?
I think so. And one of the main concerns is in relieving congestion, 42% of our rear-end collisions are from congestion. So the way that I-40 is, we use it locally so much to get on and off the interstate. If you have those choice lanes, they allow for traffic just to move through our community. And so you're going to have a lot of your service industry and also our emergent vehicles be able to utilize those lanes. And that helps because that reliability for those individuals to get to respond to any sort of emergent situation, we need to have that.
Another topic of conversation on transportation is whether TDOT should move away from a pay-as-you-go model and look to bonding and other projects that, yes, you would assume some debt as a state or even work on some public-private partnerships, but have an ability to cope with more demands that you just outlined. Is that something you would consider supporting?
Well, that's actually, funding the roads and funding those infrastructure projects, that's going to be the main topic. Obviously, it's a serious concern that's across our state. And so we're going to have to really have serious conversations about how are we going to get that funded. And with the choice lanes, you do have a private-public partnership. And with that sort of strategy, it allows for those private companies to come in, pay for the construction of those choice lanes. They pay for the maintenance of those choice lanes, but we still retain ownership. So essentially, they're leasing it from us. So that helps us in terms of we don't have to pay for that on the front end. Now, if as a state, if we determine or decide that we want to widen those roads and put in one lane each way, well, that's us.
And should that be a bonding? Would you consider bonding a smart way to deal with that? That's
something that we rely on the comptroller when we talk to him about a lot of that, and then our finance committees. That's something that I really listen to their strategic advice. I know that we've got a lot of when they rate us, they keep telling us with our bond rating that we potentially could lose some of our bond rating if we don't take on more debt, which, that to me sounds counterintuitive, but at the same time, it's something that obviously we want to make sure that safety and the safety of our roads is our number one priority.
But it sounds like something you'd consider.
Absolutely, yes. Listen, we're a fiscally responsible state. We're constitutionally supposed to have a balanced budget. So we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that we're spending our tax dollars wisely. And investing in roads and infrastructure, that to me is one of the number one priorities for me as a legislator to ensure that our families can get to where they need to go safely.
Let's cover some other issues. What are you most proud of in the last 4 years that you've been in the legislature since 2022? Name your top 3 accomplishments.
Well, one of the things I'm really proud of was the fact that we were able to change the way the cities elected their district level representatives. For me, I lived in the county. I didn't vote in city elections. But once I became vice chair of the Knox County Republican Party and got involved in those city elections, I realized that the process disenfranchised those district voters. And it wasn't just Knoxville. There was other areas across the state that it did. So once we changed that process, once that referendum went through and the community overwhelmingly voted and said, yes, we want to be able to choose our district representatives, and we were able to pass that, I thought that was very important.
Yeah, no longer, for our viewers who are listening, no longer can the city trump voters in one district and say, we choose this candidate over the one you chose, is essentially the change.
Correct. So whatever geographic area that you qualify for, those people in that little circle, that's who votes for you, not the entire city. It's just whoever is in your district.
And any other accomplishments that you point to that are on that level?
Absolutely. One of the things I think that was really important that I was able to pass was public comment. Obviously it's a First Amendment right, and the majority of our governmental agencies and governmental bodies across our state allow for public comment, but it wasn't codified. We were one of the very few states across the nation that did not have it codified. And so it was difficult to pass. You wouldn't think that it would be difficult, but there was a lot of pushback from a lot of different concerned parties. And it was really because I think that they were concerned that more people would just come in and just start talking randomly about issues. So we constrained the legislation to make sure that whoever comes in to speak, that body determines how they sign up those individuals, how long they get to speak, that they talk about issues that are related to that governmental body, and that they can make a decision upon, because you don't want somebody talking about their fishing license at the school board. So it allowed for people to be able to come in and redress their government and air their grievances.
If you win the primary in August and win in November, what's next? What do you want to bring to the table this legislative session?
Well, one issue that has been important to me and that I've brought every single time, and I will continue to bring forward, is I would like to see the reduction of the state portion of the sales tax on food. We worked hard on it last year, and
get rid of the grocery tax.
Yes. Now, granted, I don't want to impact any of the local portion of that, because so many at the local level use that for their education dollars, for their transportation dollars. It funds their general fund. What we're talking about is the state portion, which is that 4%. Now, granted, it may be difficult to do that full 4%. I wouldn't mind, we could stair step it in, we could index it in. I don't have a problem with that. One of the things that I proposed last year was that we look at the ends of the aisle of the grocery store, that we look at, removing the state sales tax on our fruits and vegetables and dairy and eggs. And so that
healthy
way.
Healthy foods, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Elaine Davis, we've got to leave it there. That's our time, but we appreciate you coming in. Thank you for making time for us, and best of luck in the primary.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And you can look at all of our interviews with the candidates in the Know Before You Vote section of WBIR.com. More to come.